Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter and I'm here to talk to you about WandaVision episode 7. It's called Breaking the Fourth Wall. And also a little bit about last week's episode, because you might have noticed that there wasn't an episode. Well, there was an episode of the show last week. There wasn't an episode of me talking about it last week. I did watch it, of course, but I didn't have a chance to record my thoughts. So I'll just briefly mention a couple of things from last week's episode before I dive into this one. Spoilers, of course, for what's aired. Standout sequence for the last episode was obviously Vision begging for everyone to help the people that are stuck inside as he's dying and he's disintegrating, having come out of the hex, out of the bubble. Wonderful stuff. It tried to throw me off the path of thinking Agatha was behind everything. Of course, the new episode that we're going to talk about mostly today confirmed that those suspicions were correct, but they did try and throw us off a little bit with her last week. Obviously, everyone's talking about all the Quicksilver stuff last week, the fun costumes that are more accurate to the classic 60s style of the comic books, and all that stuff was fun. And it was very Malcolm in the Middle, whereas this week's, I would say the actual episode was more Modern Family. That's the sort of vibe that the actual interview segments gave me. But the opening title music was definitely a riff on The Office. So they're mixing things a little bit, which is fine. I mean, I don't think they have to stick to one specific show in an era. I suppose the only real critique of that would be the Modern Family. I would say is more 2010s than it is 2000s, but that might not actually matter in the sense that we might be done with the sitcoms now. I'm not really sure, because the end of this episode, not only do we kind of reveal the villain right now, the external menace that's there. Even if she's not really behind everything going on, she's definitely having a lot of influence and causing chaos. The aspect ratio changes very abruptly, actually, when Wanda's sort of discovering the evil basement layer. I mean, obviously, the show was kind of tipping its hand a little bit right before this. The way she was talking to the kids, where one of the kids said, "Hey, you have nothing inside you," using his powers, and then, of course, the way she talked to Wanda as she was interacting with Monica, who does get inside the bubble. And of course, the big thing again that happened last week is at the end was the bubble expanded and swallowed up a lot of the Sword agents, including Darcy, and she is in the circus. I didn't notice this myself, but someone pointed out on the interwebs that the first time we saw Darcy this season was when she was trying to ask the other people in the truck with her what they were there for. And one of her final lines of that scene was, "We got a full clown car here." So the fact that everyone then turned into a circus when the bubble swallowed them up was kind of funny. So I didn't notice that, but I saw someone post that screen cap, and I thought, "Oh, that's cool. That's neat." Darcy's not obviously under the spell for too long. Vision very quickly snaps her out of it, as we've clearly established that he can do, and they begin their trip to try and intervene. Darcy fills him in on the real world, what happened to him, how he died, and where he came from, as much as she knows, at least. And yeah, Vision stuff's kind of interesting in this episode, where I was thinking for a long time, why doesn't he just fly? Because there's this almost Truman Show-esque thing where they keep having traffic issues, where there'll be like workmen going in front of them, then it's like a school class walking in front of them, and Darcy jokes that next it'll be puppies. Wanda's subconscious, or possibly the villain Agnes, is trying to keep them away. So all that stuff's fun. I did kind of like, though, that for the longest time in the episode, he never did an interview segment. The interview segment didn't come till quite late on. It wasn't until like the back third of the episode where he finally started actually having an interview. Because at first it was just Wanda and Agatha. Agatha had a couple herself. I think Wanda's are really good. Wanda's are the ones that make it feel most like Modern Family. It really felt like the mum from Modern Family, and the way she was like enunciating, the way she was phrasing things, all those kind of things. And I think the subtleties as well of like the unseen voice asking her a question and Wanda saying, "You're not supposed to speak," even though obviously that wasn't Agatha's voice. Because I'm swapping between Agnes and Agatha, because Agatha is the real name now, Agatha Harkness, who I'm not that familiar with. I don't have any great Marvel Comics insight for this character. I'm discovering this with everyone else watching, but I thought that was a nice little sort of foreshadowing of the end of the episode, which is something we've been kind of speculating is that it's not just all Wanda's doing. There is another force in here causing chaos, either whether it be bringing Quicksilver in, which it turns out to be the case because we get that montage at the end, kind of showing how Agatha's been doing little things here or there throughout the season, ending with the "I killed the dog too" moment, which is the final beat. Well, barring the mid-credit scene. For anyone who didn't see it, there is a mid-credit scene in this episode showing Quicksilver pop up, catching Monica. She's trying to snoop around and get into the basement and help Wanda. So that's all cool stuff. But yeah, like I say, I like the tease of Wanda kind of realizing there's someone else at play here, even just subtly in the sense that no one's supposed to talk back to her. That's not her doing that. And of course, the glitching that's happening, which is mainly talking about throughout the episode, is that all of the objects, the TV, the various furniture in the house are all glitching between different eras. So, and the milk even is glitching between almond milk and classic milk and to and from. Fun stuff there. I like the detail with the, if you happen to be a gamer, you'll notice the game controllers the kids are using when they're turning between things. You'll notice that they go from a Wii to a GameCube, and then they go to something else. They go to a deck of Uno cards, which I guess is the really old school version of playing a video game, which is a cute touch. So that's good. I thought I did a really good job with it. And then not only the interview segment is feeling very authentic to something like Modern Family, but even just the glances at the camera when someone says something or whatever. I think Vision's look at the camera when there's a second thing after all the workmen and the trucks finally pass the crossroads, and then the school kids start. I think that's the moment where Vision has this look at the camera where he's just like, seriously, come on. It's good stuff. And even the moment where he like realizes, like, why am I talking to a camera? Let me take off this tie clip mic and go. And I love that because I didn't even notice he had the tie clip mic on. I didn't even notice it was clipped to his like harness that his cape's attached. I don't even know what you call that thing. It's the superhero shenanigans attire. But yeah, so all that's going on. If I have a critique of the Agatha reveal. I like the sense of humor in the montage at the end and the kill the dog too. They go for a whole Wicked Witch of the West kind of vibe, which I kind of appreciate. I will say though, I did think her initial moment when Wanda goes down into the basement and the aspect ratio changes very suddenly. But the moment when Agatha steps into the scene and goes, Wanda, 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 I did roll my eyes a little bit at that. And I get they're doing the classical thing. They want this kind of cheesier, old school vibe to the villain to fit inside the meta narrative of the sitcoms and all the rest of it, and the montage they have at the end. But it did come off as like just a little bit too silly. And I think what hurt it is that this felt like kind of schlocky and just kind of silly the way she said it, which I didn't necessarily like as much. I guess it's just a trope that I don't like. I'm okay with things being kind of tropey and fun if you're wanted to feel like it's like part of a theme or part of a like a homage to certain types of movies or whatever. But when it's a trope I particularly don't like, and for some reason a villain just repeating the character's name 3 times as they're about to reveal that they're the villain behind everything is I don't know, it's just something I don't like. So maybe that's more of a personal taste thing. I think what hurt this moment a bit more though is how good a moment that came not too long before this that felt very special, I thought, which was Monica coming through the barrier and coming into the bubble and into the hex, right? Obviously, when she eventually gets to Wanda gets angry at her, and we get another example clearly showing that Monica now has powers because she's been in and out of the bubble more than anyone else and whatever. But there's the moment where she's coming through the actual barrier and she's fighting her way through it, and there's the fun bit before where the rover kind of turns into half of a truck, and you know their fancy tech didn't work, but she decides to run in anyway, and it's almost 2001-esque. It's like 2001 like Beyond Jupiter, but like digitized because it's all meant to be like sort of TV signals and stuff, mixed with like a superhero, like a genuine like superhero moment. It was making me think of all things of the Supergirl movie. It was making me think of when she's on her way to Earth and she's sitting in the pod in the Supergirl movie, and the music, like the Jerry Goldsmith music's kind of coming in, because I thought the score here was particularly good. I think that's what stuck out to me. It was the visuals, the 2001-esque visuals, but obviously the determination to fight through it, mixed with this heroic score coming in, that maybe he's very intentionally supposed to be more Monica's music in this case, felt like a really sort of birth of a hero moment. And I think one of the things that I was kind of thinking about last week was that are we going to somehow end this with Wanda, or maybe I was thinking about it before, maybe I talked about this in one of the videos, but are we somehow going to end this with Wanda actually giving birth to the mutants of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Are we going to somehow, and a weird ironic thing, because obviously one of the biggest things she ever did in the comics, which I've not read this story, but House of M, it ended with her saying no more mutants, and it stopped the creation of new mutants. The mutants that were around stuck around, but there was no more, and that was like a status quo for a long time in the comics. There's a wonderful irony if in the movies she actually gives birth to the mutants in this world. I mean, I should probably talk about Quicksilver a little bit actually on the subject of mutants. Clearly, the Quicksilver we had didn't remember anything from the Fox movies. He wasn't really bringing those things up. And given that Agnes created him, or Agatha rather, brought him here, I would suspect that it's more a case of he's not a real person. He's just based on Quicksilver. But I mean, I still think it's a reference, obviously. I think the idea is that Agatha here, as we're delving into more multiverse of madness stuff and whatever links up with this new Doctor Strange movie, is that she basically took the wrong face. She took the Quicksilver. She took the appearance of Quicksilver from the wrong world. But yes. But she's mutated anyway. So the point is Wanda's bubble has mutated someone. Monica, I can't really think of what else to call her if not a mutant. The mutant gene has been born. And we know there's thousands of people in this town. So are they all going to end up being mutants? And I'm not suggesting that every mutant that we have heard of is going to have been in this town. I'm not suggesting that Xavier and Mystique and everyone is all secretly in this town in the background somewhere. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that could this be the start of the mutant thing? Probably not. I mean, if you want to have adult mutants interacting with everyone else in the MCU, they have to have already existed or something. Or we have to merge into another Earth where there's already mutants. I don't know what they're going to do. But I did have the thought that maybe this will actually end with almost the opposite of House of M. Maybe we're probably not going to get anything that big anyway. We're probably not going to go that far. But I do think it's notable that Monica, now having powers, her eyes glow, she's able to fight through and come into the world of the bubble, the Hex, without having changed. Her eyes are lit up. Later, when she's slammed to the ground with Wanda's powers, she's able to take the hit. She lands like a superhero and takes the blast. The impact is absorbed, and she lights up again. So, and clearly she doesn't really know exactly the extent of what she can do yet. She's still figuring that out, and that's cool. But, so, no, I love that scene. I love the scene of her coming through that bubble. Because the truck thing was funny, but then the actual coming through, I wasn't expecting that to be as emotionally cool and like resonant as it was. I think ultimately, as a fan of superheroes, I mean, before I'll sit here and I'll critique and I'll analyze and I'll talk about what works in these shows and movies and whatever else. But ultimately, the reason why I care, the reason why I give a shit, is because deep down I really like, when they're good, I like superheroes. And this moment of her coming through the barrier and the music soaring and her fighting through it, and realizing she has the strength to maintain who she is and not be changed and not be altered, and even the message she tries to give to Wanda is that we can do this together. What's the bad guy? I forgot his name. Hayward? Yeah, Hayward. Oh, I remembered it. Hayward. Nice. Swordman, head of sword. He just wants Vision. He wants to use Vision as a weapon. That's what he's really after, and he's willing to go through the whole town and nuke everything. I mean, not literally nuke. I just mean, and in the sense that he's not going to care about the civilians to get to Vision. He wants to get to Vision, and that's cool. And she's trying to say, no, hey, Wanda, you're better than this. Don't let him make you the villain. And I think that's a really nice sentiment, because not that I think the idea of gaslighting has been like a major theme in this show so far, but I do certainly think there's there's little tidbits here that we can kind of take from this. And this idea that it's easier for him if Wanda's just this supervillain now. We can't let it be more complex. He can't let it be more complex than that. So, I like the idea as well that Monica and Wanda might actually have some sort of friendship after this is over. That when Wanda actually kind of gets through this and sort of learns these things and kind of comes to some sort of terms with what she's done and where she's going. And it does beg the question, if Hayward was trying to bring Vision back online before anyway, and Wanda's achieved some success, like, can we in some way have him permanently stick around? I suspect that there's a good chance we will. As long as Paul Bettany is down to play Vision for like another few movies or something, I suspect they will find a way to keep him around, and that's cool. So, no, I think this was a solid episode. I think last week's was also fairly solid. The number one complaint is that the episodes are a little bit too short. Where it feels like they're over pretty quick. It feels like I could do with more of a full course every episode. But as it stands, the stuff that it's kind of dealing with and the actual content and the story, I think this is going to be a great binge. There is kind of this deceptive thing at the end of every episode when the credits will start to roll and there's 7 minutes left. Now, admittedly, yes, this week there was that small little scene after the flashy credits where Quicksilver catches Monica, try to find her way into that basement. But yeah, so good. Yeah, there's not much. I mean, the Sword agents that are left, Hayward's is like, hey, we're going to launch our final attack. So that is obviously teasing for next time, or perhaps the finale, depending on how the timeline shakes up. It was kind of weird hearing Darcy refer to the broadcast she was watching as the title of the show. It was just kind of weird to have a character in a TV show say, hey, I've been watching WandaVision for a week. And admittedly, this episode's title is Breaking the Fourth Wall. So, I mean, that's not why it's called that specifically. It's more to do with the mockumentary 2000 style of comedy that they're doing. But, no. It's, I mean, honestly, there was funny stuff here. I think Wanda's character development is proving interesting as it goes. She is clearly a damaged individual, and it's something that Vision is now realizing as well. And the idea that this whole thing's about trying to break through to someone who has essentially had, I don't want to quite call it a nervous breakdown, but this is almost a superpowered version of a nervous breakdown in some ways. And the idea that this is more about characters who are going to write her off as a villain and are going to try and reach through to her, including Vision himself, who is kind of almost partially her creation in a sense. There's some kind of sweetness to that. And Monica having lost her mother gives her a bit more cred when she starts making speeches about losing people and about getting through pain and things like that, as she brings up. So, yeah. No. It was funny though. It was like the transitions from the inside stuff, from the end of the interviews that were cutting straight to the outside stuff and different aspect ratio with the other characters. That stuff was probably some of the most, like, I would say jarring. Jarring makes it sound bad, but just like I was getting almost whiplash going from like, like kind of sad, ironic, funny of like Elizabeth Olsen proclaiming that she's okay, and she's like, yeah, I'm fine, and then it would cut to like serious stuff outside with like the rover arriving and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. the contrast between the scenes, I don't think ever felt, and it's funny because it probably would have been more drastic if it had been happening back in like the first couple of episodes when they were still black and white. But because we never started doing that until after all that had already happened, we didn't start cutting between the inside and the outside until after episode 4, which was all on the outside. That we never got that, so this is feeling probably the most prominently different for whatever reason. So that's cool. And like I say, they did a good job last week. There was a bit of meta stuff last week, I suppose, now that I think about it, with the kids talking to the camera as well, but more in the Malcolm in the Middle way of doing it. I was never a big Malcolm in the Middle fan for whatever reason, which is bizarre because I love Bryan Cranston, but I never I watched the odd episodes. Like I saw maybe a half dozen episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, so I was familiar with it. Like when they did the opening titles last week and I saw it, I knew what it was. Like I recognized the type of song and the style of the opening credits. Whereas this week, it was the music was clearly The Office. The actual opening visuals felt like it was maybe a mix of a few different shows. There was definitely some Office in the visuals still, but I felt like they were maybe mixing in some other stuff as well. But yeah, so no, that's good. I think WandaVision's been a solid show. That feels like it is setting up stuff for the movie. If anything, my biggest concern right now with 2 episodes left is that it's going to be such a setup for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that we might not get for longer than they were expecting because of pandemic delays and theaters not been open enough and whatnot. That it'll feel more like a prologue than a full story in its own right. I really hope that there's a nice resolution that we can really sink our teeth into with Wanda and Vision, rather than it just being setting up the movie. So hopefully it's not just total cliffhanger territory. Not that I'm saying I expect it to be necessarily, but there's definitely a feeling that it could be. So I hope not. Also, we had the trailer in the last week or so for like a full trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier, which looks fine. It looks like a more typical MCU thing. It honestly is going to feel maybe a little bland versus this show, which is doing all these weirder and wackier things. But like I say, yeah, scene of the week was definitely Monica going through that barrier. I loved that scene. So good. And weak moment of the episode was the Wanda witch cackle. So hopefully the villain grows on me a little bit. Although I did laugh a little bit because she did have a bunny, and I was cracking a lot of jokes in the first couple of episodes about the bunnies being behind things. They're not cute like everyone supposes. Okay. Anyway, that is WandaVision episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all those things do help out a lot on YouTube because the algorithm is what rules us all, and we are successful if there's likes and comments and so on and so on. You can support us, of course, financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month, and you can do it over there and get some bonuses for your trouble. Otherwise, you can catch us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?